What kind of person walked with God and then vanished without a sign or a grave? Before the uncontrolled floods took away all life, there was someone who did not die. His heart was full of respect, even though he wasn't a king or a Messiah. This made people lift him to heaven. Angels heard his name, and his words wrote down secrets that no one else was brave enough to share. What kind of person could reach the heights of heaven? And why was he the only one taken to a place that not even angels are allowed to go? Because his steps were pure and his thoughts were full of real fear. God put him apart from his people and made him a witness to things that couldn't be seen, not to make him look good, but to show the world the truth. His name was Enoch. He was the son of Jared and grew up in a time when people were losing their morals. He did, however, go the other way. While other people grew stronger and more violent, Enoch sat in the quiet of creation and listened to what the wind had to say about God. He was good with his hands, but what really struck me was his heart. His days were not like other people's. Everything he did seemed to be done with respect. The oldest papers show that Enoch was more than just a good person. Beings from another world led him to see things that humans had never imagined. In one of the strangest things that ever happened to him, he was taken to the heavenly realms and saw the regions of infinity with an unnatural clarity. For him, it was like the curtain of the universe had been pulled back. The story of his ascension and what he saw afterward is written in the so-called second book of Enoch, which is a holy book that not many people know about. In that place, he talks about a 10-leveled structure in heaven where beings as bright as lightning live, and the chair of the Eternal One sits in the middle of everything. He tried writing down what he saw so that he wouldn't forget it, even though words couldn't describe it. One image stood out from the rest. Thousands of beautiful beings carried out divine orders perfectly in the area where he was taken. Each of these beings gave off light that was brighter than the sun. But it wasn't just their brightness that set them apart. It was also the unity they showed, as if they were live songs being sung before the Creator. Also, Enoch saw the throne of the Most High, but not as a golden chair or a sign of human power. He saw it as a point of unending light that gave off pure holiness. There were thunderclaps of knowledge all around it. Before this, Enoch had kept quiet. Words die there, and the spirit only bows. But he didn't just have dreams in his life. He had a son named Methuselah when he was 165 years old. After that, he lived with people for another 200 years, until he was exactly 365 years old, which is an interesting number that matches the days of the sun cycle. For his time, he had a short life, but it was full of more light than 1,000 empty years. Some strange things happened on the first day of a new month. Enoch was at home sleeping soundly when he felt a strange weight fall on him. For no clear reason, he felt a deep sadness rising inside him. His eyes got wet even though he was asleep. It was like his soul knew something that his mind didn't yet understand. Then 2 guests showed up. They weren't men, though. Their presence broke down any idea of what was normal. Their voices were not sounds, but waves of power. They were tall, beautiful, and had eyes that lit up the room. The color of their dresses sparkled like a dusty sunset, and the way their wings spread out was like walls of liquid gold. Their hands were outstretched, but not in a threat. Instead, they were calling out to each other. They didn't say where they were from. They didn't have to, though. They seemed to last forever in every way. The people who came after Enoch did not think that his job was over. They thought that it was just starting. He was being called up by heaven. He would never be seen again on earth. If this story is already moving you in some way, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. If you like this movie, please share it with someone who needs to see how great God is. Also, please leave a comment telling us what about Enoch's journey most moves you. Your help gets this word to more people who are thirsty for the truth. Also, please leave us super thanks if you want to help this work. We can keep telling more Bible stories and spreading this message of faith and hope thanks to your gift. Thank you so much for your help. We'll keep going on our journey today. For a short time, the room's light went out. Then a voice that was soft but firm called Enoch's name. When he opened his eyes, the two angels he had seen in his sleepy dream were standing in front of him. They looked like morning fires, and Enoch knew his life was about to change, even though they didn't say a word. He got to his feet with some trouble. He tried to say hello, but he felt like he was shaking. No, it wasn't just surprise. It was awe. His face turned red with fear. His face turned pale and he could hardly look at them. Then they spoke in voices that sounded like thunder far away, mixed with the sound of a calm river. "Do not be afraid, Enoch. We're here to get you because the God of eternity told us to. You will be taken to heaven today. But first you need to do something." They did not tell him a lot of things. The only thing they told him was to get his family together and teach them before he left. It was important for everyone to know that the Most High told him to stay away. Above all, no one should try to find him or ask why he left, because he would only come back when God allowed it. Enoch didn't think twice. His fear turned into loyalty. He got out of the room, put on his robe, and walked to the front door of the house. He called his sons, Methuselah, Harim, and Gadad, and quickly brought them together. The three of them came right away because they could tell from their dad's face that this wasn't a normal call. He spoke with a strong voice and a heavy heart. "My sons," he said, "something very great is happening. People sent by the Lord have called me, and I need to leave now. I have no idea where I'm going or what I will find along the way, but I believe in the one who called me." His sons sat still and paid close attention to everything he said. Enoch then said, "Pay close attention to what I'm going to say. Do not be fooled by things that are empty or by forces that say they have power, but don't. Stay away from gods and names that don't come from heaven. The God who made heaven and earth will destroy everything that doesn't come from him." His voice had a heavy tone of goodbye. He was aware that he might not come back. He would not be the same person if he did. But even though he wasn't sure what to do, his spirit was clear. "May the Lord make you all stronger. May he give you the knowledge to act with fear and right. Don't let your pride or other things keep you from seeing the truth. Also, please don't follow me. Make that promise to me. Lord is the only one who can tell you when I will come back." The sons nodded, and tears filled their eyes. There was no more to ask. It was a sad time. He heard the voice of heaven. After that, the two beings came closer again. They spread their wings out like sheets of light and put their beautiful hands on Enoch. There was no ground under his feet for a second, and he was lifted off the ground. He felt the weight of the world lift off of him as clouds wrapped around him like a blanket. As Enoch went up higher, he realized he had reached the edge of what could be seen. The light filled the room and made the air as clear as thought. There were no shadows in the light. The first star in the sky showed up in his eyes at that moment. There was an unimaginable vastness in front of him. A sea that was higher than all the oceans put together mirrored a light that was as blue as sapphire. It was water, but not any water he knew. It moved, but it didn't fall. It moved to the beat, but not because of the wind. There, a group of calm-looking older people gathered in silence. They seemed to know that he was coming. Around them, Enoch saw 200 flying things. Each one was an angel with long wings that sparkled like a moving star. They didn't stay put. They went around the sky in exact circles, making it look like they were dancing among the stars. They looked out for the stars, like guards. The moves of the stars were controlled by them, and they followed those who flew through the sky. They left behind trails of light that faded into nothingness as they went. Enoch was shocked. Every second was a surprise, but that was just the start. Enoch looked down at the lower parts of the sky from above. He saw things that were really there that were hidden behind what people call weather or event. Below, he saw what looked like huge deposits. They were actually celestial rooms filled with snow that looked like it was being watched by invisible hands. These pools were watched over by imposing angels. They were not calm like the beings in the first heaven. These things had serious faces and stood like sentinels. They were strong and had power because they were responsible for a lot. It dawned on Enoch that nothing was random. Every flakes, storm, and drop followed a clear plan. Then his guides showed him where the clouds came from. He saw where they were born and how they got where they were going before they away. Harmony was kept in check in everything. Then the dew storage was shown to him. It was a thin, shining area that looked like it was made of liquid light. The way it felt was like pure olive oil, and when light hit it, it showed off the colors of earth flowers, as if it smelled like secret gardens. Again, angels carefully watched and chose the right times for it to be released. In the sky, there was no rush, there was order. And Enoch now knew that even the smallest nature events were controlled by hands in heaven that humans could not see. The angels picked him up again without notice. They rose quickly and lightly, like they were flying between the sky's layers. After that, they got to the second heaven. There, the difference was clear right away. The light from the first heaven went out. Everything was controlled by a thick shadow that looked like it had life in it. Enoch saw shapes floating in the empty space inside it. These beings were locked up and held captive by chains of psychic power. Even though there were no walls, they couldn't get away. They were waiting in silence, and the pain and sorrow in their eyes were clear. They were angels, but not the ones who led him. Their faces looked different because they were hurting. Their tears never stopped coming out. They didn't scream or fight back. They just cried. Because of what they did, they were stuck there. When Enoch felt sorry for the people who were suffering in this dark place, he asked his guides, "Who are these people?" The answer came right away. These are the people who turned away from the Most High. They gave up on their goals and followed their wishes instead of God's will. They turned against their master, who is locked up in the fifth heaven. Because of this, they wait here until the time of final sentencing. They moved toward him when they heard his voice. Even though they were tied down, they begged, "Servant of the living God, pray for us. Speak for us, because our hearts still long for the Creator." However, Enoch closed his eyes. His soul was in pain. He answered in a humble way, "I am only flesh. I can't do anything to help you. I don't even know what's in store for me or who can help me. What can I give the Eternal One?" The place was sad, but the guides quickly picked him up and went on. We didn't have time to wait. As soon as they reached the third heaven, everything changed. What Enoch saw looked like it was a dream from God, a beautiful country where everything was full of beauty. The land was lined with huge trees whose leaves were thick and whose fruits sparkled like gems. There was sweetness and light in the air. The sound the leaves made as they moved was like music that was alive. Everything was in balance, and the smell of the fruits woke up the soul. The tree of life, which was in the middle of the park, was the most amazing thing there. It was majestic, grand, and brighter than pure gold. Its roots went deep into the ground, and its branches spread out like arms that welcome you. Its bark and fruit were different shades of red, orange, and fire. That's where the Lord rested when he went to heaven. Before that tree, Enoch felt a deep sense of reverence. Its presence not only charmed, but also took over. There was peace and power coming from it. It looked like the leaves were beating in time with the sky. At that point, nobody said a word. He just thought about it and knew. That spot was a barrier, a place between reality, which is broken, and forever, which can't be broken. That's where Enoch knew his trip would really start, between what can die and what will never fade. As Enoch was still in the third heaven, he looked down and saw that the ground was like a garden that went on forever. There was a lot of life in everything. Then, in the heart of heaven, two springs appeared. One gushed milk and honey, and the other slowly poured oil and wine. Their water didn't rush around. It flowed slowly, making 4 big rivers that went through the fruit trees of Eden and out to the rest of the world. He knew that these rivers not only fed animals and plants, but also brought good things to faraway places. They were like unseen rivers of kindness that kept the world going. Things moved here in a way that matched the will of the Most High, just like the snow and dew pools did. There was no loss. Everything went where it was supposed to go. There wasn't a single tree there that wasn't bearing fruit. It was full of life in every corner. The fruits had colors that had never been seen before, and the smells mixed together in a beautiful harmony. Enoch saw 300 angelic beings constantly present among the strong trunks and bright leaves. The garden was watched over with great care by angels robed in glory. The sound of their soft, constant songs filled the air. Their praise never stopped, so they didn't stop. They sang with both sweetness and power, as if their very presence were a gift to God. Because of how beautiful that place was, Enoch couldn't hold back his response. He said, "What a beautiful place this is." The angels that were with him responded, "This is the place where the faithful rest. People who stand up to evil, even when things are hard, will live here. People who choose to be good, even though everything around them calls for bad behavior. Fair judges, people who feed the hungry, dress the naked, help the weak, and people who pick up the fallen will end up here. People who look out for children, tell the truth, walk in the light, and don't worship false gods will live here." Enoch didn't say anything. It was more than just pretty. It was a treat. It was clear justice. There, goodness grew like trees that will never die, and purity could be smelled like flowers, though not everything in that heaven was nice. As they went on, there was a sudden change in the air. A fiery river that ran through a different part of the yard like a snake started to give off a suffocating heat. The water looked like flames, and thick smoke rose from the edges of the lake. It was hot and cold at the same time, and Enoch could feel the difference on his skin. There were rough currents going through the area, and angels with mean faces watched over the edges of it. Their eyes didn't show any sympathy. They carried solid light swords and spears that would hurt the people who were meant to be there. Enoch was scared by what he saw. He screamed, "This place is awful." The answer came right away and was firm. This is where the days of those who hated the Most High will end. This is what happens to people who have made the world dirty with their evil. Men and women who made fun of justice, did things that were bad for nature, and ruined the innocence of children with their filth. People who used witchcraft and trickery to control others are still here. They took pleasure in doing bad things and didn't want to change. What else did the angels say? They were serious. This is the place of liars, of people who took advantage of the poor out of greed, and of people who shut their hearts to the pain of the needy, of those who would rather look for man-made stone idols than the one who gives life. These are the people who killed for power, cursed and poisoned others with hatred. This is the end for those who denied their Maker. These words hit Enoch hard. The beauty that was there before was now replaced by a sense of need. He wasn't just a guest. He was there to see what was going on. He saw things in every place he went, and every choice made on earth determined where they would end up. It was clear what was going on. There was a place for the upright to live, and a pit for those who refused to change their ways. And time was the only thing that could separate these two outcomes. After telling them what would happen to those who chose good and those who chose evil, the heavenly guide said in a serious voice, "This is eternal judgment, the last prize for those who turned their backs on God. Once this order is carried out, nothing can be changed." Right away, they took Enoch back to the top of the mountain. From now on, his feet didn't touch the ground in heaven. Instead, the beings who were guiding him told him what to do. They went up past the fire and the garden until they got to the fourth heaven. Everything there was moving and bright. Enoch saw the path that the sun and the moon were supposed to take. These are the big stars that have been set in place from the beginning to show the times, days, and seasons. Their dance wasn't just a fluke. It was lovely, precise, and full of movement. He saw that the sun was much brighter than the moon, and that it was unnaturally bright. It moved quickly and never stopped, like a wind that never stops. Each step looked like it was meant to be taken. Enoch saw that the sun wasn't moving by itself. 4 big stars followed it, one on each side of its path. 1,000 smaller stars circled each of them. Every day, 8,000 stars moved along with the sun. Not only did these stars follow, they formed an army in heaven. 15 armies of angels gathered around them and helped the sun prepare its way with order and respect. Enoch saw that at dusk, 1,000 creatures with 6 wings showed up. They were ahead of the sun as it went underground to protect its fire at night. They were like live torches that showed the way to secret light. It is the job of 100 angels to feed the fire of the sun, the messages said. This is what the Most High told them to do. Light the flame and keep the heat steady. There was more, though. Unknown creatures showed up around the star. Enoch saw the so-called phoenixes and chakadres, which were beautiful and powerful beings that no one had ever thought of before. Their bodies were colored like the rainbow, with a different color in each size. They were very big, 900 units tall, and had 12 wings that opened at the same time. Their feet looked like lions' feet, which is a sign of power. Their heads and tails looked like alligators, which meant they were strong and alert. They weren't monsters, they were watchers. As God told them, their job was to control the Earth's temperature by controlling heat and dampness. There was not a single drop of dew or ray of sunshine that these things could not control. People were told that the sun rose from below the sky and followed its path below the earth, shining its light on everything even though people couldn't see it. Its circle went on forever because that's how the Creator programmed it. After that, Enoch was taken to the far east. They put him in front of huge openings, which were the gates of dawn, where the sun starts its journey every day. The 6 routes were lined up, and each one was exactly 71 stadia and a quarter wide. Everything was exactly the right size. These gates didn't mean anything. They were real. Because of them, the sun rose every month in the same way, following the cycles and seasons. Every sentence was about a different time of the year. When the sun went through a certain gate, the weather, light, and shades changed, setting the beat of time on earth. An angel said, "Here is the secret of days and nights. These cycles keep each stage of creation going. Depending on the month and season, the sun comes in through one door and goes out through another. As soon as it gets to the end, it goes back the other way, following the opposite process. This means that the years, months, days, and hours are over." Enoch knew that the hands of heaven, which couldn't be seen, kept time going. There was no room for error. Every star, every ray, and every dawn were made by holy engineers. He could see everything with his own eyes. The year had gone through its full turn. The pattern that was shown to the Father was correct and didn't change. It was caused by the 4 seasons, which balanced the passage of time. After that, the angels led him to the other side of the heavens. He was taken from the east to the west, where 6 more gates opened on the horizon. They were exact copies of the ones he had seen in the east. In the end of each day, the sun went out of these holes and back in again. They said, "These are the gates of sunset." Right through them, the star says goodbye to Earth and keeps going on its secret path. It was clear to Enoch that the movement was reflected. There were 365 and a quarter days between each entry in the east and an exit in the west, which is the exact number of days in a year. Once the sun went through these western gates, its brightness was no longer visible. The light was hidden below the earth, but the Lord of hosts could still see its cap, which was the core of its brightness, in the sky. No one was allowed to leave this holy crown alone. 400 angels were sent to guard it. They stood like sentinels around the heavens and made sure that the sun's glory stayed clean and tidy in front of the throne. At the same time, the sun kept going deeper underground. It moved under the world of men in a huge wheel of energy. It rested in silence for 7 long hours until it got closer to the east. It was ready to come back in the 8th hour, bringing a light stronger than any known spark. The sky was full of movement at that holy moment. It was time for the beautiful phoenixes and chalkidras that lived near the sun to wake up. Their huge wings beat like drums at dawn. They started to sing in deep, beautiful tones, filling the sky with songs honoring the return of light. No matter how simple or beautiful the birds were, They all joined in the tune, a band of angels singing together, resonating across the great expanses of the sky. The animals said, "The light bearer has arrived. The dawn of the morning God shines on the earth." So the sun came up again. Its rise was both a physical event and a spiritual message. It showed that God is reliable, orderly, and cares for the world. The sun and the light it gave off filled the earth, warming the fields, waking up living things, and shining light into hearts. The angels showed Enoch how all of these movements could be measured very accurately. The sun's path went through a full circle that lasted 28 years. After that, everything started over and went back to the way things were from the beginning. But that's not all the information was. The men from heaven showed the seer a new secret. From west to east, there were 12 huge gates that led to secret tunnels owned by the moon. These gates were different from the sun's, but they were perfectly lined up with them. The moon follows its own time and compass, but it always obeys the same supreme order, the guide said. Enoch saw that the moon came in through the first western gate, right next to the gate where the sun went down. It could be seen there for 31 days before moving on to the next gate. It moved slowly and calmly, like someone walking with respect. The moon's light was not the same. As it turned around, it didn't burn or heat up. It brought to mind the sun's light and was like an image of greater beauty. Even though the moon was soft, Enoch knew that it was very important for it to guide the nights, keep track of the months, and control the holy times. There was no chance. There was a heavenly plan for everything, from the fire of the sun to the golden glow of the moon. Once more, Enoch didn't say anything. He just watched and knew that time, space, and light all worked for the Most High, and the heavens moved because he said so. Both the sun and the moon moved in ways that were set in stone from the beginning of time. Each of the 12 gates that the moon went through had a set length of time. It stayed for 31 days through the second gate, which was the same number of days it stayed through the first gate. Like the fourth, the third cycle was cut down to 30 days. In the fifth, it went back to 31 days, and in the sixth, it did the same thing. Seventh gate showed 30 days again, eighth gate showed 31 days, ninth gate showed 31 days again, 10th gate showed 30 days, 11th gate showed 31 days, and the 12th gate showed 28 days. This was the moon's whole path. It came in through the gates in the east and left through the gates in the west, just like it had started. This cycle lasted 365 and a quarter days, which is the same length of time as the sun's path. It was told to Enoch, though, that the lunar year had 354 days, which was 12 days less than the sun cycle. These days that weren't there were called moon epochs, and even though they weren't very many, they were very important for keeping the times in sync. There was no ignoring of these differences. They were part of a bigger system, not against it. Over the course of 532 years, the whole cycle of adjustments and changes happened again and again. A quarter of a day was left out for 3 years in a row. It was added in the 4th year to make the correct measurement of time. This fix kept the schedule from getting messed up and made sure that the seasons, months, and cycles stayed in the right order. If this change wasn't made, 2 months would go longer than they needed to, and 2 months would get shorter. Enoch knew that God's perfection would not be changed, not even in the smallest details of time. The sun did not stop moving after it finished going down through the western gates. It went back to the east right away and got back to its job of lighting up the earth. This back and forth movement went on under all the layers of the sky, faster than any wind, spirit, or visible force. No matter how fast an angel was, it was too fast for it to catch. The angels were there, though. Each one has 6 wings that move in time with the different movements. Their tracks crossed each other at regular times. Every 19 years, a full cycle happened, which happened 7 times. Time, motion, and even the sky were all linked. In the middle of this huge building, Enoch saw something that shook him to his core. There was a place of worship that would never end in the middle of the sky. There, warriors from heaven got together not to fight, but to praise God. They had drums and musical instruments in their hands and armor that was as bright as dawn. When their sounds came together, they made tunes that were hard to describe. They didn't stop. The music kept going on and on, like a river of pure sounds. There were different kinds of melodies that were soft and deep, and they touched him deeply. While Enoch listened to those sounds, he felt his own mind grow. There was no need for words. God's praise spoke for itself. He thought, these tunes are not just beautiful. They make things happen. They are songs that keep the heavens alive. The happiness he felt while listening to them was so strong that it made the whole trip seem less heavy. He felt lighter, more awake, and more alive with each chord. Then the guardian angels called him again. It was his last day there. They took him to the 5th level of heaven by leading him forward. When Enoch got there, he saw something amazing. There were many strong beings stretching out in all directions in front of him. They stood out because of their majestic height and deep-set eyes. They were known as the Grigori, which means watchers. They didn't move, standing there like living towers to watch over something Enoch didn't understand yet. They were different from the other angels in how they looked. The way they stood made them look strong, but their eyes were sad. Enoch thought that the stories on this level were too complicated for humans to understand. They were very quiet with each other. He knew, though, that what he was about to find would change the course of history forever. The beings that lived in the 5th heaven looked like humans, but they were much bigger than any giant on earth. They looked intimidating as they stood like living columns in the clouds, but their faces showed that they were tired. Their deep-set eyes and dry faces showed that they were very tired, like they had been carrying heavy loads for a very long time. They kept quiet the whole time. There was no sound of music or praise going up to heaven at that level. It was very different from the other skies. Angry, Enoch looked to the angels who were leading him. Why are these beings so quiet? Why isn't there worship like in the other heavens here? These are the Grigori, the watchers who used to have honor and power. The answer came in a serious voice, but because of pride and forbidden desire, they turned away from the Lord of Light. Their boss, Saturnael, took them off the road that will never end. A lot of their brothers were sent to the 2nd heaven, where it was always dark, and were locked there. The angels kept talking and revealed deep secrets. 3 Grigori came down from God's throne to a place on the hills of Hiliman called Urban. They broke their holy vows there. Because they were forbidden to have daughters of men, they thought about how beautiful they were and took them as wives. That's where the chaos grew in this illegal union. Their children turned into angry giants with bad hearts. These children spread violence and damage all over the world. Things went wrong in a world that was once designed to be peaceful. So, God's punishment did not take long to come. The Most High gave them a sentence that would last forever. When Enoch heard these things, he felt sad. The pain on the Grigori's faces showed that they knew what they had lost and felt bad about it. He walked up to them with respect and said, "I have seen your brothers locked up in the dark. I saw what would happen if I disobeyed, so I prayed to God for them. But the Lord's decision is already set in stone. You will stay underground until the end of time." Enoch spoke to them with kindness and asked, "Why do you still stand here in silence? You should praise the Lord before he gets angry. Why don't you do that?" The Grigori didn't say anything back, but a small shift in their eyes showed that they had seen what was said. Then something strange happened. Through the 4 parts of heaven, they sent a message in silence. Even though Enoch didn't know how, he knew that something was starting to work. 4 horns all went off at the same time. The 5th heaven was shook by a loud roar. The sound seemed to go through the whole sky and echo to the very ends of the universe. That's when the Grigori spoke up after being quiet for a while. They started to sing with one voice. It wasn't a happy song or a chorus of thanks for a victory. It was a song full of loneliness, sadness, and pain. A serious cry that rose like a fiery wind in front of God's throne. Enoch thought this song didn't ask for forgiveness. It just talked about loss. It was the sound of people who knew how much what they had given up was worth. As soon as this exciting show was over, the guides came back. They told him, "Now you must go to the sixth heaven." This time it was easy to climb. When Enoch crossed the barrier between the levels, he was hit with a light that was so bright it hurt his eyes. He saw 7 separate groups of angels there. Each group was made up of beings whose beauty is beyond words. All of them were beautiful, and their clothes looked like they were made of live light. It was like the sun was shining on their faces, but it didn't hurt your eyes. Instead, it made you feel calm. Enoch noticed something strange. They were all the same. There was no difference between them in how they looked or how they behaved. It looked like they were thinking the same thing because they walked, talked, and moved all at the same time. There wasn't any anger, pride, or conflict. Things were always in order in the sixth heaven. Enoch knew that he was surrounded by angels who had specific jobs to do and were keeping the most important secrets safe. Even so, he thought that the next heaven held something even better for him. In the sixth heaven, Enoch thought about the order in the heavens that held up the universe's unseen walls. Those angels, who were dressed in beautiful clothes and had similar looks, were not there by accident. They were in charge of keeping everything in order. They watched how the stars moved, how the moon changed phases, and how the sun moved each day. They also made sure that everything between heaven and earth was balanced, always paying attention when they saw unfair behavior from people or changes in creation. They sent orders, instructions, and warnings, serving as direct messengers from God to protect the original purpose of life. As they did these things, they sang strong, beautiful songs that praise the one who is above all things. Each note held power and respect, and the songs made a rhythm that moved through space and time, keeping the energy of creation alive. These were not your average angels. They were archangels, who are higher-level heavenly leaders and are in charge of everything that breathes and shines. Beyond them, Enoch saw angels with specific jobs to do. There were angels that watched over the seasons and years and made sure that time kept going. Angels that regulated the rivers and seas and made sure that their power didn't go too far. And angels that ruled the earth's crops and fruits and made sure that every living thing had enough food to eat. An angel was looking over everything in nature, even the tiniest bit of grass, making sure that everything happened in its right time. The supply was wonderful. It was clear to Enoch that nothing could escape the holy eyes. Other beings had a third job. They had to keep records of human lives. With great care, they wrote down every move, choice, and action, making a record for God. No life was passed over. Each story was written in heaven on pages that we can't see. Out of these beings, Enoch saw 6 phoenixes, 6 cherubim, and 6 other flying beings that were different from the others. They worked together to make a choir that never stopped. The sound of their voices rang together in a way that words could not describe. It was sound, light, and spirit all at the same time. Their praise wasn't just a habit. It was pure celebration, with a line of happy people stretching out in front of the throne. There was a vibration in Enoch's chest that was like the vibration of the sky. It was like he was a part of that endless song. Then the 2 beings that were with him came closer again. They said, "The time has come. Let's go to the 7th heaven now." Enoch didn't know what to expect, but he quickly learned that getting ready wouldn't be enough. As he entered this new level, he was surrounded by a light that was so strong it made him weak. There were troops all around that looked like endless seas of holy fire. Aside from the fiery archangels, there were also unseen forces, powers, dominions, thrones, cherubim, seraphim, and other beings with many eyes that covered their bodies and kept them alert at all times. Everything was shining with light. Many people were there. It was hard to keep track of them all. Everyone took their place with respect. Enoch understood that there were 9 clear groups or real ranks of heavenly light. These were set up not by human power, but by how close someone was to God. Enoch was so amazed that he shook and felt a chill go down his spine. It was like a force that he could not question was all around him. He said in a whisper, "I'm afraid." But the men who were leading him told him not to worry. "Fear not, Enoch. The Most High told us to bring you here. Be strong." I then saw them point. Beyond the rows of lights in front of him was a huge, faraway chair that was surrounded by a brightness that could not be compared to anything else that could be seen. They said, "That's the Lord, placed in royal splendor." Enoch's heart was beating fast. His spirit was quiet, but he was still interested in something. He asked, "What's after that? What's above the seventh heaven?" The answer came right away. "That's what we call the 10th heaven. It's called Aravot in Hebrew. That is where the most important part of God lives. No living thing goes there on its own. It's where time bends." Enoch was told that in that highest heaven, all the gods and goddesses were arranged on 10 steps of glory, each one representing a different level of honor. They bowed down and sang soft praises to the Lord. Then they happily went back to their places, bathed in endless light, to start the cycle of worship all over again. Enoch's mood became calm. It was almost time for the trip to end, but what was about to happen would be more amazing than anything he had seen before. Around the supreme chair stood animals that were very bright. Cherubim and seraphim, who each had 6 wings and many eyes, never looked away. Their wings shook with awe. Their eyes looked through space and time, and their soft, serious voices would never end. "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord, ruler of the armies." The sound of this song didn't stop, fade, or play over and over like an empty echo. It was life. Something in the universe seemed to start over every time it was sung. They worshipped by saying, "Heaven and earth are full of His glory." This filled the sky with both power and peace. Enoch was so amazed that he didn't move while he watched everything. He then turned to the 2 beings who had led him there and said quietly, "Enoch, our job was to bring you here. This is the end of our order." After that, they were gone. The Father was left by himself on the edge of the 7th heaven, looking out into an infinitely vast space. Because he was scared, Enoch fell to the ground. "What has happened to me?" He cried out in pain as his body gave way. "Why did you leave me alone?" Before hopelessness could take over, the Lord sent a being with great glory. A beautiful figure came down like a ray of light that doesn't hurt. Gabriel the angel was there. He spoke in a strong but calm voice. "Get up, Enoch, do not be afraid. Join me. For all time you will stand before the Lord, because you will be led into His presence." But Enoch, in his own thoughts, said, "Lord, my spirit almost left me because of such respect. I believed those who led me. I believed they would stay with me until the end." Then Gabriel picked him up like a leaf being carried by the wind. Enoch felt light, like his body had become one with the light. He was brought before the face of the Lord in a gentle way. But first, he saw something he had never thought possible. First, he saw Musalot, the 8th sky, which controls the changing of the seasons. That's where the droughts and rains were told, along with when to plant and gather. The place where all the gears in the universe worked together, and where God's invisible clock constantly adjusted the universe. There were also the 12 stars, which were evenly spread out above the 7th sky. Each one kept track of its own time, power, and part in how the universe was made. Then Enoch thought about the 9th heaven, which was called Kuksavim. It is the sky where the houses of the 12 signs live, which are like homes for the stars. Everything there was in order and made sense. The zodiac wasn't just a myth, it was based on a picture of the stars that was made by a very smart being. Then, finally, the light got brighter, the air got thicker, and the sounds stopped. Enoch made it to Aravot, the 10th heaven. That's where he saw the Lord's face. His eyes saw something that words could not describe. The Most High's face was like red-hot iron that had just been taken out of the fire. It was sparkling with live sparks and burning with an intensity that didn't hurt, but showed. It seemed like time had stopped for Enoch. The spark of God's presence was the only thing that moved. His soul fell to the ground without his body bending. He knew that this was the most perfect moment in the whole world, the highest point of life. But Enoch couldn't explain what he saw, even though he had seen it. "Who am I to try to describe what can't be described?" he asked himself. "How can I describe how beautiful that face is? How can I say what I felt in front of him?" There was no language or thought that could record it. When you're in front of the Lord, your mind is still, and your heart only worships. Still, the Lord spoke. He spoke in many voices, giving orders that changed the world and laws that traveled through the sky like streams of light. God's words set off worlds, times, and futures with each one. He was the beginning of all knowledge and the source of all power. And Enoch, a man from the earth, was asked to see this. His trip through heaven ended there, on the throne of infinity, in front of the burning face of the infinite. But it wasn't the end of something eternal, it was the start of something eternal. Before Enoch, there was a seat that wasn't made of stone, gold, or anything else that could be seen. It wasn't made by people and was better than anything their minds could imagine. It was living and beautiful, powered by endless power, and surrounded by many gods and angels. He couldn't count them, not because he couldn't see, but because there were so many of them. There were armies of cherubim and seraphim all around the throne. Their noise never stopped. They sang without stopping, singing praises in perfect rhythm and with awe, as if each note were an important part of the very structure of the world. There was nothing old. Things didn't change. It didn't matter how much you thought about how beautiful the Lord was. It was still beautiful. What was seen with the eyes of the soul could not be put into words. When Enoch saw how holy it was, he couldn't say no. His body got weaker, his knees gave out, and he fell to the ground where his face touched forever. He felt small, helpless, and not good enough to be there. The quiet was broken by a voice that was both strong and soft. It was the Lord's words, "Enoch, be strong, don't be scared. Stand up and look at me for all time." These words didn't just sound like words. They were inside him. Enoch felt like he had more strength. At that very moment, the archangel Michael came up behind him like a light wave and gently picked him up. Michael put him on his feet and turned him toward the throne as if he were taking up something valuable. Then the Lord spoke calmly to his heavenly armies. "Let Enoch always be with me." It felt like heaven had stopped. "Let it be done according to the word of the Lord," the glorious being said, as if they were speaking as a single voice. Then God told Michael, "Take off his earthly clothes, put the oil of my presence on him, put on him the clothes of my glory." Michael did what he was told right away. He went up to Enoch and took off his human clothes, which was a sign that the old body would no longer be in charge. Then he took a holy bottle and poured holy oil all over him. The liquid flowed like dew at dawn. It was soft, smelled good, and was so bright that it was brighter than the afternoon sun. The smell was hard to describe, not like earthy perfumes, but like something that relaxed the soul and gave deep peace. It took Enoch's whole body to shine with the same light as the angels because of the oil's light. He was not the same person when he looked at himself. His body looked different now. Now he was like the great ones, bright, endless, and perfect. The Lord then called out one of his smartest archangels, whose name was thru. The look on his face was calm, but the knowledge in his eyes was thousands of years old. He was known to be smarter than anyone else and to have written down everything God said and did. "Thru," the Lord said, "take the pen that writes quickly and the sealed books from my stores. Please give Enoch the most beautiful and calming texts so that he can learn about the secrets of my world." That's how it went. He brought sheets of light with letters that moved on the paper like they were made of fire and wind. He taught Enoch from where he sat. He told him the most important things about the sky, the land, and the sea. He talked about the four parts, how they moved, and how they worked together. He talked about sound, where it comes from, and how it moves. He also talked about the sun and moon, their paths, and their cycles. He showed him how the years, months, days, and hours are all connected to the will of the Most High. He also showed him the stars and what they do during certain times of the year. Besides telling us how the winds are born, he also told us how many angels are in the heavenly soldiers and how the melodies that keep the skies in union are made. Enoch paid attention, learned, and got it, not with his mind from this world, but with a mind refreshed by God's light. He wasn't just a guest anymore. He knew and saw things that would never be told again. After the lessons about the sky, the air, and the stars, the discoveries didn't end. Pravuilo, who was the smartest person, quickly turned to Enoch and began to teach him about the secrets of life. He showed him how languages were made, how songs of praise come from the heart, and which songs are pure and which ones you should know. He talked about the eternal rules, the principles that keep life going, and the lessons that shape people's paths. All of these come from the will of the Most High. Then Pravuilo gave him an even bigger job. Now, Enoch, sit down and write. Make a list of all the souls that will appear. Write down the ways that are set aside for each person from the start of time to the end of time. And Enoch did what he was told. He didn't stop writing for 30 days and 30 nights. He looked at the stack of books in front of him. Each one was full of names, fates, and goals. Every soul had a plan before the world was even made, and it was carefully written down and linked to every other soul with divine accuracy. 366 books were written, all of them without any mistakes, and the person who saw everything signed them. The Lord then spoke again, telling Enoch to get closer. Place yourself to my left, next to Gabriel. With humility, Enoch bowed down, and he was raised again, not by people but by God himself. He sat down, but not as a normal person. Instead, he did so as a man changed by glory, who was now a member of the endless council. The Lord then looked at him and said, "Beloved Enoch, I have shown you everything that exists, everything that was made, and everything that will come to pass. I was before time even started to count. Before there was light, sound, or even the thought of being, I made everything out of nothing." He went on, "You've heard things that not even my angels know. They are so big that I have never shown them how they were made, or how my kingdom became so big. They serve, sing, and follow orders, but they don't know where everything came from. But to you, Enoch, I showed you what was hidden." It was quiet as Enoch listened, and he took in every word like fire in his spirit. The Lord spoke with strength and kindness at the same time. I walked alone through the invisible kingdom before anyone could see. Like the sun going from one end of the sky to the other, I went through the unknown darkness. On the other hand, I didn't rest like the sun does on its trip. As I went on, I continued to shape and form things that would one day be seen. Then Enoch realized that his trip wasn't just a spiritual crossing, but proof that God is in charge of everything and moves the world with love and precision. So, the end of his journey came. He had walked through the star rooms and seen the realms of light, the skies full of praise, and the realms of fire and order. He saw the rebels fall, heard the cries of those who broke their promise to the Creator, and saw the prizes that were set aside for those who stayed true. He saw God's face, though, which was even better. Another person saw this too, not just him. He wrote down everything he saw. He kept everything he learned secret. Why? So that people in the future would know, so we could find out. It's clear what it means. God rules, seeing. He makes decisions, and he gives. Enoch wasn't picked to be praised. He was picked to testify, to write down, to connect heaven and earth. What are we going to do now that we know this? Will we not notice that the skies have opened up in front of us? Will we act like we didn't see the light-engraved words? Or will we hear the call from the thrones of eternity telling us to be good, apologize, and be holy? The book of Enoch is more than just a story from heaven. It's a call, an alert, a promise. May we have faith, respect, and follow the rules. May our steps line up with those of the person who saw heaven and came back changed. If we really seek the Lord, we will one day be able to stand in front of him dressed in glory, just like Enoch did. Don't keep this story to yourself if it moved you. Send this movie to someone who needs to be told that God is fair and just and rules over everything. Feel free to say, "I want to walk with God like Enoch did," and remember to stick around on our show. It is still possible to find out a lot more about the Bible. Thank you for following us to the end of this incredible story. See you in the next video. May God be with you always. Amen.